What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Became the 10 Tails in DC Part 9. Now let's begin. The demise of Superman. Ultimately, if that were not the situation, one must question why Superman has been absent lately. Perry White received this video following an anonymous tip-off. After multiple confirmations regarding its authenticity, Perry recognized the potential for a significant scoop. If this information is accurate, it would undoubtedly represent a significant breakthrough in the field. If it were not the case, it would still result in a significant impact. The invincible Man of Steel is not as invincible as it seems. How much longer can Superman provide us with protection? Man of Steel in critical condition. Superman overcome by extraterrestrial forces. Numerous headlines emerged in his thoughts. Ultimately, he held the position of editor at the Daily Planet. He may not harbor any animosity towards Superman and may even hold a secret admiration for him. However, that situation requires alteration. His role was to deliver fresh, trustworthy, and engaging news to the general public. Despite the video serving as sufficient evidence, and even in the absence of any actual incident involving Superman, there was a prevailing reluctance to speak out against him. Nevertheless, he remained intent on ensuring clarity. This is the reason he requested Clark to conduct an investigation. A contemplative expression crossed his face as his thoughts turned to Clark. However, his neutral expression made it difficult for anyone to discern his thoughts. "Hello, Jimmy." Lois approached the pair of Jimmy Olsen and Cat Grant, calling out to them as she closed the distance. "Hello Lois, how are you?" "Nothing out of the ordinary, just the regular tasks at hand." Cat acknowledged her response while reviewing one folder after another. She donned a beige-white top paired with a fitted black skirt, which elegantly complemented her heels. "I understand your perspective. The flow of news over the past month has been quite rapid." Cat expressed her thoughts, to which Jimmy responded. "I completely agree with that statement. Given the recent events surrounding the Central City invasion, I have been capturing more photographs than I have throughout the entire year. I am experiencing cramping in my fingers. Do you believe Luthor will fulfill his commitments?" Jimmy's question prompted a brief chuckle from Cat. It is uncertain what Lex Luthor is currently planning. Furthermore, there is a well-known adage that states, all politicians are the same. I would have greater confidence in the Joker next door unexpectedly achieving sanity. What is the latest information regarding the scoop that Perry is discussing? What might be the issue with Superman? I am uncertain, Jimmy. We will need to await Clark's findings on that matter. The trio executed a left turn at the corridor. "Greetings everyone," regarding Clark. Lois, who had remained silent throughout the discussion, finally seized the opportunity to contribute. "Have you observed any notable differences in his behavior?" "Excuse me? Clark? What is your perspective on him?" Jimmy inquired with a sense of confusion. "It is of no significance. I have observed that he has been somewhat unusual since returning from sick leave." Lois responded with a subtle frown. The cat inclined her head slightly. Lois sensed a piercing gaze directed at her, causing her to narrow her eyes in response. "You seem to be quite attentive to our well-known coffee boy, don't you?" A smile emerged on Cat's face as she spoke in a playful manner. "I." Lois exhibited a subtle flush of color on her cheeks. Oh. Has our designated office flower finally found a potential match?" The cat persisted in its playful antics. "Please refrain from making irrelevant comments." Lois' complexion flushed with color. "I am unclear about the current situation." Jimmy contemplated the situation, displaying a clear expression of perplexity. "What caused the topic to shift unexpectedly?" "Your assistance is no longer required, Jimmy. I will handle it from this point forward." Cat remarked with a growing smirk. She gestured dismissively to the ginger-haired reporter and took Lois' hand, guiding her away with purpose. Olsen remained in the hallway, appearing somewhat disoriented. "Please share the duration." The dark-skinned woman's eyes gleamed with the intent of sharing intriguing information. "Did you observe?" Lois inquired with a subtle smile. "What is the number of tall, attractive individuals with a pleasant smile present at the Daily Planet?" The cat posed a rhetorical question. Lois appeared somewhat self-conscious. "Please provide me with all the details. Could you please clarify the issue at hand?" "It's not significant, really." Lois expressed her disagreement and stated. I observed that he was behaving somewhat unusually during our last interaction. I am unable to identify the specific issue. He has indeed just returned. He may still be experiencing some health issues. Kat raised an eyebrow and provided her assessment. Perhaps. Lois also shrugged. The two engage in conversation for a period before parting ways. In another location. Understood. Jimmy Olsen, no longer required, sought new opportunities to pursue his life elsewhere. Regrettably for him, his shift was not yet complete. Jimmy was seated at his desk, engaged in typing on his computer. I require a coffee. He expressed that with some reluctance. Hello Jimmy, a melodic female voice reached Jimmy's ears. Excuse me. The cameraman with ginger hair lifted his head to observe. Oh. Hello Lana. Hello, how can I assist you today? Jimmy inquired with an arched eyebrow and a cordial demeanor. Have you seen Kat? The chief is seeking her once more. Kat? Last I observed her, she was with Lois. He responded with a calm demeanor as he redirected his attention to the computer before him. He was genuinely exhausted with all matters related to work at this stage. At this point, his primary desire was to return home and prepare a sandwich. Lois. The response provided immediately drew her focus, though not in the manner that Jimmy had anticipated. The occupied cameraman responded without lifting his gaze. Indeed. Kat and I observed her as we were exiting Chief's office. The two individuals commenced their conversation immediately afterward. It seems that Clark has become engrossed in conversations with their close friends, completely overlooking my presence. Olsen expressed his dissatisfaction. Regarding Clark. Lana spoke softly to herself. Her eyes exhibited a distinctive flash of light. Something that the inexperienced individual Jimmy Olsen would not comprehend, even if he were to observe it. He did not, to be candid. There is a sense that something about him seems slightly off. Subsequently, they began discussing the matter, entirely disregarding my presence. It seems rather discourteous to leave someone in that manner, wouldn't you concur? Excuse me, Lana. Could you please inform me of her whereabouts? The lengthy discourse Jimmy finally lifted his head, only to find that the individual he had been conversing with was no longer present. As he turned his head, he observed the redhead's figure fading into a corridor. Very well, I look forward to our next meeting. Jimmy stated with a neutral expression on his face. Taxi, please. Lois signaled to the taxi as it drove by. It came to a halt, and she entered. 922 Oak Hill. She provided her address, to which the driver acknowledged with a nod and commenced driving. Fortunately, the traffic conditions were favorable. The sound of the key being inserted was audible, followed by the turning of the knob, and then it was done. The subtle creak resulting from the opening of a door was audible. Lois entered her apartment, tilting her head while placing her hand on her neck, revealing her collarbone. Today has been quite challenging. She expressed her relief as she removed her shoes, set her handbag down, and turned on the lights. No events occurred. Excuse me. Is there nothing available? She activated the switch once more, anticipating the lights to illuminate. Regrettably, the darkness persisted unchanged, devoid of even the slightest illumination. That is quite unusual. Did I experience a power failure or something? Lois reflected inwardly, grappling with her confusion. She retrieved her phone from her pocket and activated the flashlight. As she approached the center of the living room, a moment of uncertainty crossed her mind. However, upon inspection, she found no evidence of faulty wiring. She activated her phone, accessed the contacts list, and selected the number saved under the name Electrician Guy, positioning the device near her right ear. Unbeknownst to her, in a prominent shadowy corner, a figure that had been well concealed in the darkness gradually opened his eyes. Greetings, this is Lois Lane from apartment 214. Indeed, that is correct. I require some. Lois turned to face the television screen while speaking on the phone. She raised her head slightly, and her line of vision fell upon the television screen, where two pairs of gleaming green eyes emerged behind her. Greetings, Lois. The reporter was momentarily overcome by shock and fear, causing her body to freeze instinctively for a brief moment. Impact. A forceful and precisely executed palm strike made contact with Lois' neck, rendering her unconscious. The sound of heavy metal and the movement of robotic components resonated within the room. A metal cyborg with glowing green eyes loomed over the fallen body of Lois Lane. "You will accompany me." The mechanical, raspy voice of Metallo echoed, audible only to him. The cyborg elevated his head to observe the view through the window, his focus directed specifically at the Daily Planet. "Superman," Cyborg said. The room featured subdued lighting, creating a specific ambience. The light screens illuminated the space, creating a more inviting atmosphere in the room. However, through them, some very specific faces could be observed. A number of individuals that virtually any member of the Justice League would instantly identify. At the forefront of the League's priority target list. "This is quite fascinating. I must acknowledge." The individual possessing the voice stated with conviction. He possessed a tall stature, a muscular build, and his eyes radiated calmness and serenity. Attired in a distinguished blue suit reminiscent of a gentleman from England, Vandal Savage attentively observed the video displayed on the screen before him and his associates. This represents an unforeseen development. A female voice expressed a preference. The important question now arises. Could it serve any purpose for us and our objectives, or? The voice momentarily halted, introducing an element of tension. Will this deviant present an obstacle on our path? Lex Luthor, physically present in the room rather than as a light projection, tapped his fingers on the armrest of his chair. An appropriate response to that question cannot be provided at this time. Lex stated with a solemn expression. "Hello. Is it of significant importance? There have certainly been others who have posed challenges to us." The voice of the enigmatic witch boy, Clarion, resonated in their ears. "On this occasion, I find myself in agreement with Clarion." Ocean Master was added without any particular concern. "Our operations are ongoing. The alien would be advised to maintain his usual discretion and solitude. If that is not the case, a lesson may be necessary." Confident remarks, Ocean Master. Queen Bee responded sharply. The display depicted her seated on a throne, exuding an air of regality and beauty. She possessed a commanding presence complemented by a touch of allure. "The last time I recall, you were unable to overcome your brother, Aquaman. He was of mixed heritage, if my recollections are accurate. Have your recent efforts led to significant enhancements? Is it sufficient to provide you with the confidence to confront 5 Leaguers and emerge triumphant?" The tone was laced with overt sarcasm. Orm's hand firmly grasped the trident. He restrained himself from delivering a sharp retort that was on the verge of escaping his lips, exercising control to prevent an outburst of anger. He regarded his defeat to his half-brother, Aquaman, as his most significant embarrassment. "In the conflict between the Atlantean army and the surface world, I successfully neutralized the Justice League independently. With the Trident of Atlan, I found even Superman to be no match for me. The League did not fully recognize your potential. At that time, Superman was not even aware of his vulnerability to magical energy. Furthermore, their objective was to incapacitate you rather than to take your life. Despite your best efforts, you were unable to eliminate them." The brain calmly countered the superficial comments made by the banished prince. Despite lacking hands, he delivered a decisive strike to Ocean Master's delicate ego. In Brain's perspective, given Superman's speed and strength, defeating the banished prince was an achievable task from a mile away. If Ocean Master possessed the capability to dismantle the League independently, what necessity would he have for their involvement? Before ORM could express his frustration, Lex interjected into the discussion. "I concur with Brain on this matter. Given your formidable strength with the Trident of the Sea, would you be capable of eliminating the Justice League permanently if we successfully acquire it for you?" Luthor's tone was neutral and free of any ridicule. However, to ORM, the mockery was unmistakably audible, visible, and palpable. ORM was on the verge of losing his temper. He held the title of a prince, a royal prince. The legitimate successor to the throne of Atlantis. It is unacceptable for individuals to ridicule him. It is unacceptable for them to mock him. "No." Queen Bee inquired with a noticeable disdain. "You may lack the confidence to execute that, yet your ability to boast appears quite proficient. That is sufficient." Observing the unfolding situation, Savage promptly intervened to halt it. We are all collaborators united by a shared objective. Engaging in such disputes among ourselves is not befitting our standards. He stated this without altering his position or diverting his attention. The focus remained on the video featuring Naruto in a confrontation with Batman and the rest of the League. Could you please share the source of this information? Savage inquired in a straightforward manner. The clone, naturally. Lex stated with a straightforward expression. It was obtained directly from the Justice League's watchtower. Please provide an explanation, Savage stated. Luthor regarded his tone with disapproval, yet proceeded to clarify Naruto's situation with the League as understood by Red Arrow. The actions of the League are quite unusual, to say the least. Savage remarked after a brief pause. Lex acknowledged his words with a nod. I concur. Such actions are inconsistent with Batman's principles. Nevertheless, he proceeded to do so. What do you believe may be the underlying cause of this? Unidentified. It seems that Batman's challenges with control may have reached a tipping point. Regardless of the reason, it remains a fact that this individual, referred to as deviant, should not be underestimated. According to the Insider, the abilities of Martian Manhunter and Shazam are remarkably comparable to those of Superman. His demonstrated capability to overcome them with the involvement of the Green Lantern and a magician raises concerns. What is your perspective on this matter, Luthor? The display featuring the brain shifted focus to Lex Luthor and posed a question. Although the deviant presents a significant concern, he has not posed any direct threats to our interests. I question whether you convened this assembly merely to inform us that the League has suffered a setback. You are correct. Lex acknowledged and activated a button. The display transitioned to present a comprehensive report provided by the Light's Insider, Red Arrow. I would not convene you all here if it were merely that, but we must take into account our progress in the subsequent phases of our plan. He not only defeated 5 League members, but also caused 5 more to vanish. Luthor proceeded to clarify the circumstances. Are you suggesting that the Justice League is presently lacking in personnel? Queen Bee inquired with a touch of disbelief. This alters the situation. The brain expressed itself. Are you suggesting that we capitalize on the League's absence to expedite our plans, Lex? Savage contemplated with a thoughtful stroke of his chin. This presents a significant opportunity. An unexpected outcome, yet still valuable in its own right. Are the missing Leaguers deceased? The current status remains unclear. Our council is not yet complete. In the absence of the Demon's Head due to various circumstances, we are unable to proceed with a vote to determine whether to move ahead of schedule. The time frame is insufficient, and the advantage lacks reliability. It remains uncertain if Wonder Woman and the others will make an unexpected appearance the next day. It is advisable to take a moment to assess the situation. Savage stated in a composed manner. I am particularly intrigued by this alien that has come to our attention. Will you be reaching out to him? Queen Bee raised an eyebrow in response. I am evaluating the option. That individual would be an excellent asset to our initiative. Savage remarked with a hint of intensity in his gaze. Ocean Master displayed a look of discontent. He had reviewed the video and analyzed the reports, thus he was well aware of Naruto's formidable strength. That was not part of our strategy. He expressed his disapproval. Perhaps not, yet nonetheless. I have developed a newfound appreciation for talents. Given the abilities he has demonstrated, it would be a significant loss if we are unable to bring him onto our team. He responded while gently stroking his full beard that adorned his chin. Those abilities are exactly what render him a significant threat. This time, it was Queen Bee who spoke, not ORM. We have not had any previous communication with him and are unaware of his intentions. Revealing ourselves to him may prove to be counterproductive. Text particularly if the League becomes aware of our activities through him. The League has already become aware of our presence. Even if they are not aware of our specific identities, Batman understands that there are individuals operating behind the scenes. Since when have we been apprehensive about being illuminated? A soft laugh emerged from the ancient fossil, which has existed for several millennia. Premature exposure to the League's notice is unwarranted and could lead to unnecessary complications. ORM, however, was determined to stand his ground. The considerations of the Light were not present in his thoughts when he expressed this statement. He was opposed to the inclusion of another influential figure in the council who might present a challenge to his position. ORM exhibited a strong sense of confidence in his personal abilities. In a direct confrontation, he was confident that the only individual capable of surpassing him among those present was the Lord of Chaos, Clarion. While the others exhibited some backhands, notable power, and influence, these aspects were insignificant compared to the Atlanteans' extensive numbers and advanced technology. Upon ascending to the throne, the Light could and would be eliminated. He would guide the Atlanteans to reclaim their former glory, eliminating the surface dwellers, and establish himself as the sovereign of both land and sea. However, that remained a consideration for a later time. At this moment, he required their assistance and could not risk a conflict with them. He needed to persevere and ensure that circumstances remained favorable for him. Engaging in combat with an opponent who possesses near immunity to magic raises significant concerns regarding the feasibility of success in such a scenario. He firmly opposed the inclusion of Naruto. With a neutral, unresponsive demeanor, ORM proceeded. In addition to increasing his physical strength, Naruto does not contribute any further significant value to the Light's mission. We currently have a significant number of associates regarding top combat power. However, those of us present here with actual decision-making authority possess distinct spheres of influence. I must acknowledge that the fishman has a valid point. Queen Bee stated while extending her hand. Although power holds significance, the foundation of our organization relies on the individual networks managed by each of the 7 original members. If that were not the case, then an individual such as Black Adam would similarly have the entitlement to join us solely based on his powers. Although Naruto's individual strength may exceed that of the ruler of Kondak at first glance, his impact on Earth is not comparable. One is an extraterrestrial being, while the other holds a position of authority. Based on my assessment, I have reservations about Naruto's willingness to accept a subordinate role under Light. That represents merely the surface issues. As she stretched her waist while seated, the contours of her figure presented an alluring sight that could captivate the attention of onlookers. Unfortunately, none of them were ordinary individuals. Lex's mind, laden with extensive knowledge, significantly overshadowed his sexual emotions. The same could be observed for the ancient caveman, who had effectively existed from prehistoric times to the present day. Only Ocean Master might have been slightly affected, yet as a former Atlantean king, he had encountered numerous wonders. His former fiancée, Mera, was comparable to, if not exceeding, Queen Bee. It is important to acknowledge that he currently represents an uncontrollable variable. With his personal strength, he could potentially present a challenge to you, Vandal. Ultimately, he has already stripped another individual of their immortality. Queen Bee's eyes glimmered with intrigue, observing Savage as though anticipating an engaging performance. The League files were available to nearly all official members. Aside from certain highly confidential information accessible only to individuals such as Batman, the remainder was available for public access. Naruto's danger files documented his achievement of removing Lobo's immortality. An item that was readily available to Red Arrow. Indeed, Vandal Savage hesitated in this regard. The intensity in his eyes diminished considerably. The essence of Savage's importance lies not only in the connections he established over the past millennium but also in his remarkable ability to sustain such a lengthy existence. At this juncture, his immortality constituted the essence of his existence. Otherwise, Savage would have perished at the hands of Clarion millennia prior during their confrontation with the Lord of Chaos. His physical capabilities were certainly exceptional, yet in the presence of a Chaos Lord, Savage would have faced an insurmountable challenge. 1,000 lives would not suffice to endure the confrontation if he were not immortal. This was also the reason he was able to negotiate a deal with Clarion. If not, how could an individual possess the ability to persuade such a formidable entity to collaborate with him? Should he lose his immortality for any reason, it would inevitably lead to a reduction in his influence and prestige. At that time, he was uncertain about his ability to deter these ambitious members from entertaining any unconventional ideas. Observing Savage's silence, Queen Bee proceeded. His origins raise some concerns. The Justice League remains uncertain about his identity, origin, and the extent of his powers. Enigmatic in my perspective. She concluded with a smile. When in that area, it does seem unwarranted. The brain expressed his viewpoint. The potential benefits that may be realized do not surpass the associated risks. Savage shared a similar perspective. Nevertheless, that might not be the situation. This extraterrestrial entity may possess greater value than you realize. The voice of the bald genius articulated this statement. Vandal Savage can be characterized as a living fossil from the primordial era of the Earth. An individual who has experienced the evolution of human civilization, witnessing the rise and fall of numerous empires throughout history. When it comes to age, Ra's al Ghul, the Master of Shadows and leader of the League of Assassins, is quite the character. He's famously used the Lazarus Pit to dodge death and has been around for hundreds of years. You could even say he's got some ancestral ties. In terms of seniority, he ranks just behind Clarion. Having lived for such a long time and seen so much, Vandal had definitely come up with some ideas for humanity as a whole. So many kingdoms, empires, clans, and tribes have come and gone. Some rose from the ashes and thrived, while others faded away, lost to the sands of time and forgotten forever. Some he ruled personally, while others held really high, important positions. He referred to himself as a visionary, a veteran, and the mastermind behind every major war in human history. We're looking to shape the world for the battles of the future. His tomorrow. He thought he was the only one with the right vision and skills to guide humanity to the next stage of evolution. Even though he never quite managed to rule the world after all those 50,000 years, the experience, wealth, and resources he collected throughout his long life showed that his ambitions were still very much alive. Unlike a lot of villains with super dramatic and tragic backstories that shape who they are, or those who are just plain crazy and love causing chaos for fun, Vandal's reason for being a villain is pretty straightforward and relatable in the story. To take charge of the world. To reach that goal, he started and became part of many organizations throughout the years. The latest one is the Light. Once Superman made his presence known to everyone, Zod showed up, and the Justice League formed to keep things as they were. Vandal figured out that with the League around, his dreams of taking over the world and gaining power would just stay as wild fantasies. The League would totally be against the idea of one person having all the power over the whole world. Savage realized that he couldn't tackle this obstacle by himself. After hanging around and picking up some intel for a few years, he decided to invite Ra's, Lex Luthor, Queen Bee, Ocean Master, Brain, and Clarion. This move helped him gain some serious clout across various areas like the underworld, business, politics, the sea, science, and magic. The Light set up or took over networks of operatives, put important people in crucial roles, and looked into the limits of all the latest technology. The Light explored genetic engineering, biochemical engineering, robotics, nanorobotics, technosorcery, and every possible method of mind control in its quest to speed up human evolution. Every founding member had a solid network of connections and a significant impact in their circles. Thanks to them, most of their plans and schemes became a reality. They were the top members not because of their individual strength, but because of the value each one brought to the table. Naruto, while strong, didn't really hold that kind of value. If he doesn't have it, he'll just end up being a bit of an outsider, at least. Not anywhere close to their status. Queen Bee wrapped things up that way, but Lex had a different take on it. Oh. Seriously, Luthor? Savage glanced over at Lex, looking on with curiosity. What else could the deviant bring to the table for our cause? Technology. Lex just replied with a single word. It made a lot of people raise their eyebrows. For those who had them, of course. What are you saying, Luthor? The Brain asked, clearly intrigued. When it came to technology and bioengineering, that was totally his area. It's clear that Taskmaster was given the job of reverse engineering the last vial of Cobra venom he got from Santa Prisca. What kind of technology could the aliens have that would make this ruthless businessman budge? Was it weapons? So, I'm talking about this. A holographic projection popped up on the screen. A glimpse of a little red girl. So, this was the Red Queen that Lex had learned about while trying to uncover everything he could about Naruto. Yeah, it definitely wasn't the real thing. It's just a picture taken from military files. Other than that, there wasn't anything else. Lex had to acknowledge that the old general was really skilled at keeping the things he wanted to stay under wraps, well under wraps. What's going on here? ORM asked, looking a bit puzzled. Why were they looking at the picture of a little red girl? Maybe a resource. Lex said with conviction. Is that a resource? ORM lifted an eyebrow in surprise. So, what's the deal with artificial intelligence? Brain asked with a curious tone. Lane got it from the deviant. Lex said with a serious tone. I'm having a hard time getting it. The tone of Brain was getting chillier. The other Light members were also frowning. Except for Clarion, who seemed totally zoned out, looking like he was just bored to tears. Lex just brushed off their not-so-great expressions. He locked his eyes on the holographic picture and kicked off the introduction. Once I became president, I dedicated a good chunk of my time looking into everything I could find about Naruto. So, after a bit more digging than I expected, I stumbled upon an unrecorded transaction involving our mysterious alien and the United States Secretary of Defense, all backed up by the World Council. The Council? Queen Bee asked in a bit of a higher voice. Being a big player in politics, she definitely knew about the World Council. Sure. Lex gave a nod. So, it looks like they and Naruto worked out some kind of deal that lets him live openly on Earth. So, this is where their first official cooperation kicked off. A really smart artificial intelligence. She acquired it mainly to help the military fend off the Justice League's ongoing attempts to breach their systems. So, you can really see the impact of the League losing control of the Amazo android. Lex waved his hand. It's pretty cool, but it doesn't hold a candle to what I found out this AI can really do. So, what could that be? Vandal asked. Complete control. What? Lex looked around at everyone there. Ocean Master mentioned that the Light has reached our current results not just through sheer strength, but thanks to the thoughtful planning that really depends on the network supporting each one of us here. We've brought together networks of operatives, positioned important people in crucial roles, and checked out the limits of all the latest technology. Genetic engineering, robotics, nanorobotics, and pretty much any way you can think of to control the mind. We've managed to sneak a sleeper agent into the League's ranks. They'll keep us updated with useful info when it matters and help us keep an eye on their movements. It's all about our hard work, aiming to really understand and take hold of global authority. To get more power, more influence, and more chips and pawns. Everything is geared towards helping us take that next leap in human evolution. His tone suddenly changed. I found out that this Red Queen has way more potential than it seems at first glance. The AI can connect to various systems from different places. It can make billions of digital connections from all over the world with amazing accuracy, every single time. Anything from a mobile phone to a government satellite would be under its control. You can hint at what might happen because of that possibility. You've got communication channels, surveillance cameras, round-the-clock monitoring, and automatic control over pretty much anything linked to the grid. Factories, submarines, missile bases, airplanes, you name it. Lex went through the possibilities one by one. It was like the whole place just hit pause, and you could see all sorts of expressions popping up on the faces of those who were able to show them. So, that means, you've got full control. Lex wrapped up what he had to say. So, what you're saying is that anyone with this AI could pretty much run a country. Queen Bee said, her expression serious. The consequences go way beyond just managing countries. Brain spoke with a really engaging tone. Anything that's linked to a system falls under its control. No secrets would exist. Managing nuclear weapons. Vandal Savage thought about the possibility. His light screen stayed quiet for a bit while a bunch of thoughts whirled around in his head. So, do you still stick by what you said before, Ocean Master? Lex focused on ORM. The prince frowned a lot, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Luther clicked his tongue and decided to back off. Seems like the banished prince with a fiery temper wasn't as clueless as we thought. Well, at least he realized when he was in a tough spot. Are you personally interested in Luther? The Vandal, who had been quiet for a bit, finally spoke up. You all know I'm just a straightforward and genuine businessman with a bit of smarts. It's totally normal to find yourself interested in things from time to time. Lex replied casually. That still doesn't change the fact that he's dangerous. ORM wrapped things up with a final word. I have to say, it definitely comes with its risks. Lex shrugged and said. So, when we're talking about dangerous people, who here can we really say is off the hook? Looks like we need to dive a bit deeper into this. I won't be a part of that. Brain simply said no to what Vandal Savage had to say. I still have to keep digging into my research on the cobra venom. You can go ahead and make your decision on this matter without needing to inform me. And just like that, his screen went dark. I'm really curious about this guy's knack for stirring things up. He. This is going to be fun. I'm feeling pretty bored here, so if he's heading out, I think I'll go find something fun to do. Clarion couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. And just like that, his screen turned off too. I'm going to head out too. I'm still sticking to my opinion, though. Right after that, Orm's screen went dark. So, are you actually going to go through with it, Savage? Queen Bee asked with a hint of curiosity. We'll just have to wait and see. Savage just shrugged it off. What measures are in place to ensure this does not draw the attention of the Justice League? Naruto's relationship with the League appears to be lacking. I am confident that it will not present significant challenges if we adopt the appropriate strategy. Luther addressed her remarks. It is of no significance. Vandal stated. The reality is that, regardless of our preferences, this alien presence is an issue that can no longer be overlooked. In due course, we will establish contact. The timing is contingent upon whether it occurs sooner or later. At this time, it is essential to continue monitoring the deviant. Queen Bee arched an eyebrow. That is simpler in theory than in practice, Vandal. Her words were indeed accurate. The deviant has not made a public appearance in the past month. Had it not been for this incident, it is uncertain how long he would have remained unnoticed. He maintained a public base, yet access was restricted to select individuals. There is no need for concern. I will handle those matters. Lex focused on Queen Bee. Reaching out to Naruto can be approached at a measured pace. At this time, I believe our resources will be most effectively utilized in securing the AI. To the best of my knowledge, Naruto is not the sole individual in possession of it. Lex's body, previously still on the plush chair, finally shifted as he rose to his feet. Adjusting his attire, the self-assured individual remarked, however, I will require assistance from your team at La Reine. An individual possessing exceptional mind control abilities. Queen Bee considered his words carefully, tapping her fingers for several seconds. A pleasant smile emerged on her face. I have an ideal candidate in mind. 1 week later. United States Scientific Weapons and Biological Research Facility. Cadmus Subterranean Facility. I trust this will not be yet another of Lex's justifications. Donning a standard military uniform, with black hair featuring several streaks of gray. His blue eyes regarded the men before him with a detached demeanor. Dr. Austin Blake recognized the old general's annoyance merely from his expression. He managed a wry smile and endeavored to clarify the situation. We are making every effort, General Lane, but it is important to understand that scientific research on genetics and weaponry requires a significant investment of time and resources. His remarks were regrettably interrupted by the impatient Sam. I have encountered that statement numerous times, and frankly, I find it quite tiresome at this juncture. His eyes narrowed, conveying a piercing gaze. I did not arrive here uninvited to receive a series of excuses. I am seeking updates on the military's investments that have been incurring costs of billions of dollars annually. Austin remained quiet. He understood the purpose of the Secretary of Defense's presence. As the individual responsible for overseeing this division of Cadmus Laboratories, he was required to confront the potential displeasure of the general. Austin inhaled slightly. Subtle signs of perspiration had started to appear on the skin of the middle-aged man. The silence was notably unsettling. Project Blockbuster is not yet prepared. Ultimately, the sole words he could articulate at that moment slipped from his slender lips. Sam's expression became immediately stern. That is not the information I was expecting to receive, he remarked while tilting his head slightly. I would like to address that matter. Austin carefully considered his thoughts to articulate the appropriate words. He understood that significant stakes were involved in this situation. Sam Lane was a challenging individual to collaborate with. Despite being a highly respected scientist with multiple degrees and a prominent reputation, a single misstep in communication could jeopardize his standing significantly. We have achieved some results. The initial objective of the blockbuster serum has been successfully accomplished. Individuals administered with it experience significantly improved strength and defense capabilities. Absolutely deserving of the substantial investments made by the military. Austin attempted to offer some valuable insights that could potentially simplify the situation. Unfortunately, Lane was not going to allow that to occur. I am aware of that. It would certainly be beneficial if that were the extent of the matter, wouldn't you agree? The frigid atmosphere caused Austin to experience cold sweats. As a distinguished chemist with experience at Cadmus, it is surprising that he would be unaware of the characteristics of the blockbuster serum. We have made efforts to mitigate the side effects associated with the transformation. However, the serum has demonstrated to be excessively intense for the test subjects to manage. All the experiments concluded without success. Following the injection, the formula would transform the test subjects into aggressive entities with significantly diminished rationality. This is a failure. Lane exhibited a dispassionate demeanor. Consequently, effective immediately, Cadmus will no longer receive its funding. General Lane. Dr. Austin called out loudly as he pursued Sam's departing footsteps. The seasoned general disregarded him, offering no regard for the esteemed doctor as he proceeded toward the elevator with an impassive expression. I kindly request that you reconsider. Austin's anxious expression came into view, yet Sam chose to remain silent. He decisively interrupted Austin's sentence, contributing his own thoughts. This matter requires no further consideration. Regarding Project Steel Soldier, Cadmus has demonstrated an inability to fulfill their commitments. The military's funding is not limitless. Austin experienced a slight choking incident. The doctor, in his middle age, experienced a brief moment of uncertainty but swiftly collected himself and proceeded with his persuasive efforts. This is not a feasible outcome. While he anticipated that Sam would be dissatisfied, he never imagined that the general would unequivocally forsake Cadmus following the unsuccessful blockbuster formula. The military invested years and billions of dollars into this project. The blockbuster serum represented a significant investment in the overarching strategy of the Steel Soldier project. However, the losses resulting from discontinuing it would be significant. Certainly, it would have Northwest impact on Sam Lane whatsoever. Despite his strong advocacy for the Steel Soldier project, Lane's stance remained nearly impervious, bolstered by the support of the World Council. However, Cadmus operations would certainly experience a significant setback. As the head director and lead researcher of this facility, he would certainly face the majority of the consequences, irrespective of his level of responsibility. Given his significant connections and access to critical information, it is reasonable to conclude that his conclusion would likely be unfavorable. He quickly understood that departing from Cadmus was more challenging than he had anticipated. Maintaining its vitality, that is. However, what is the status of the investments? I am confident that we can reach a mutual agreement. We kindly request an extension of time. Sam entered the elevator with a neutral demeanor and selected the button for ascending to the upper levels. Observing the distressed expression of the doctor, Sam spoke in a measured tone. Cadmus' time has come to an end. The military has made a new investment. The elevator doors gradually closed. Please inform Luther that I am no longer willing to tolerate his antics. Ding. The doors closed, leaving a middle-aged man in a white lab coat. Austin's eyes lost their brightness considerably. He exhibited a slight slump in his posture and ran his hands through his hair, expressing his frustration. Situations were deteriorating significantly. Cadmus facility, above ground. As Lane exited the building through the sliding entrance doors, his expression remained neutral. Good day, sir. Two individuals dressed in army green uniforms stood at either side of the entrance and rendered a salute. Lane remained silent, his expression impassive and his gaze piercing. The two soldiers observed the general advance and proceeded a few steps behind him. It was evident that Sam was experiencing a negative mood. Indeed, that was precisely the situation. A soldier in an upright position opened the door of the escort vehicle. Sam did not offer him an additional look and proceeded into it. Please vacate the premises. A sergeant commanded attention. The convoy that transported them here advanced, proceeding beyond the facility gates into the expansive, desolate terrain. Gazing out the window, the view was dominated by an expanse of dust and sand. Unlike other Cadmus facilities situated in or near populated regions, this particular one was positioned in the heart of a desert. Certainly, a military base was located nearby, which was Sam's subsequent destination. Sam chose not to examine the situation. His expression was marked by a deep frown as numerous thoughts occupied his mind. Alice. Lane announced as he retrieved a tablet from the far right. Yes, how may I assist you? The screen illuminated promptly, succeeded by a compact holographic projection of the red lowly. Report, he stated. Your orders have been executed as per your request, General. However, the tone of the AI was monotonous. Sam's expression became unappealing. There has been a minor issue regarding your plans. Could you please provide an explanation? The general issued the order with a stern demeanor. Based on her tone, he realized that an issue had arisen once more. All information regarding File A06 has been retracted in accordance with your directives. The swift response of the military indicates that the incident should have been effectively managed and resolved without further escalation. Outside the awareness of the general public. That was the case until tonight. Alice has submitted her report. Sam's appearance deteriorated with each passing second. Allow me to make an assumption. Was there a reluctance to let it fade away without notice? Affirmative. And now, a week later, has someone disseminated it? Affirmative. At this moment, as I articulate my thoughts, it is gradually gaining recognition. Affirmative. Despite his efforts to keep a composed demeanor, the subtle tremor in his hands revealed that General Lane was far from tranquil at this moment. At this juncture, Sam found the incessant affirmative responses to be quite bothersome. Who is it? He inquired with a gaze that radiated an icy demeanor. There is no verified source available. It emerged on the internet just an hour ago. Nevertheless, some individuals are leveraging it to their benefit. Name. He remarked with a subtle gesture. Gordon Godfrey. The Red Queen articulated. Luther. With narrowed eyebrows, Sam's already poor mood deteriorated further. Please demonstrate. He stated after a brief pause. The Red Queen vanished, replaced by multiple holographic screens. Presenting news reports, television broadcasts, and internet topics across various platforms. There is widespread discussion regarding the Gotham City disturbance. File A06 was the case file that Sam had developed for the Deviant. Documenting all available information regarding the Deviant, including his public actions, sightings, and additional relevant details. The most recent update to this file pertains to the significant confrontation the individual had with the Justice League some time ago. Lane addressed this issue promptly upon its discovery. However, it had become ubiquitous. Once the news was released, it disseminated rapidly across various channels. The unexpected decline took Lane by surprise at an inopportune moment. Is it merely a coincidence? Sam would remain unconvinced, regardless of the circumstances. There was an individual exacerbating the situation behind this wildfire. The situation genuinely frustrated the old general immensely. Cease. He made a hand gesture, prompting the holographic screens to vanish instantly. What should be our subsequent steps? The miniature version of the Red Queen re-emerged above the tablet. Please relay my directives to ensure that the military terminates all investment contracts with LexCorp and Cadmus Labs. He responded with a neutral expression. The persistent tapping of his shoe served as the sole indication of his irritation. Reach out to the White House. I believe that the president is obligated to provide me with an explanation. Lane contemplated for a moment, his fingers brushing against his bare chin. Kindly inform Naruto. It is time to finalize the agreed-upon transaction. As you prefer. Sam was left alone with his thoughts after the Red Queen's departure. As the tablet powered down, Sam set it aside, his thoughts shifting to other matters. The primary task on the agenda was to conduct a thorough cleaning of Cadmus. The connection between the military and Cadmus originated from the former's need for a strike force equipped to confront the emerging era of the supernatural. In contemporary times, conventional firearms and ammunition are insufficient. With the emergence of phenomena previously considered impossible, such as aliens, metahumans, deranged villains, and creatures from the magical realm, Sam realized the significant deficiency in Earth's firepower. It is not only him, all global governments have recognized this issue and are progressively implementing measures to address it. If that were not the case, how could the existence of Superman and similar figures be readily accepted? The global dependence on the League is evident. Missiles and bombs were rapidly losing their relevance. In the presence of individuals such as Superman, humanity found itself entirely at their mercy. This was an occurrence that Sam preferred to avoid. Years ago, Sam approached a younger Lex Luthor with his concepts for a weapon designed to counter supernatural threats. Project Steel Soldier, as designated by the military in their records. Lex readily agreed at that time, which led Sam to believe that the young billionaire and genius shared a similar thought process. Lane recalled the statements he had made to his superiors several years prior, with Lex standing beside him. Indeed. Provide me with a group of individuals akin to this Superman. What is the appropriate way to address him? Many years later, the project has yet to come to fruition. The blockbuster formula, for which he had the highest expectations, ultimately proved to be a significant failure. Lane found no value in soldiers he could not manage. Regarding Luthor, Sam observed that Lex's intentions had significantly shifted from their previous state. He became aware of this when the existence of Superboy was revealed to him. Cadmus Labs developed a clone of Superman and maintained its secrecy for years without his awareness. The situation reached a tipping point, and the unsuccessful outcome of the blockbuster serum was merely an added disappointment that did not significantly affect him. Lex had engaged in play with him, diverting funds from the military to support his research, resulting in the provision of substandard materials to them. It is important not to overlook the significance of the amount of money in question, even considering Lex's status as a billionaire. The military allocates billions of dollars annually. Had it been in the past, Sam might have continued to tolerate it. The Steel Soldier project could not be easily abandoned. However, at this point, the former general possessed superior alternatives. This act of retaliation marked merely the commencement of a larger sequence of events. Lane would ensure that Luthor returned every last dollar he had taken from them. It is plausible that in the coming months, LexCorp Industries may experience significant losses. Although she held the position of Secretary of the DoD, Lane exuded a remarkable confidence. Sam ceased to consider the matters concerning Lex. He contemplated the Steel Soldier project. The silhouettes of military trucks moved beneath the intense afternoon sun. The convoy advanced through the desolate desert terrain. The convoy comprises 5 armored vehicles, with the most significant officer positioned in the center. Heavy rock music resonated from the first location, however. 5 soldiers were housed within the vehicle, with all but the driver maintaining a vigilant stance, their weapons poised. Their heads swayed to the rhythm of the music as their eyes wandered in various directions. It appears that the outcomes did not align with our expectations. Soldier A remarked while gazing out the window from the left side of the back seat. Yes, the driver stated. Could you elaborate on your reasoning? We are not engaged in any transportation activities. Soldier A provided a response. Was this not intended to be an escort mission? Soldier B, seated in the front next to the driver, inquired. Indeed, however, it is not the general that we are tasked with escorting. Indeed. It has come to my attention that we are scheduled to acquire a specific type of super serum. Hee. What is Cadmus developing this time? Are we discussing super soldiers? It would not be unexpected if that were indeed the situation. Indeed. The driver displayed a contemptuous expression. Even if they did, what would be the purpose? It is unlikely to transform anyone into Superman at this point, is it? Would you consider trying it if possible? No, thank you. I prefer to avoid the possibility of becoming an unattractive, distorted version of myself. It is of no concern to me. The mission we are undertaking is relatively safe. I learned that several individuals encountered significant difficulties during a prisoner escort to Belle Reve. Soldier A spoke in a subdued tone. Over 20 individuals. Only one individual emerged from the situation unscathed. He remains in intensive care. A hush enveloped them. Exceptional individuals. One individual expressed their frustration with a curse. Sufficient. The driver shouted. It is clear what occurs in our field of expertise. For the time being, you all can express gratitude to the deities you fervently worship that our current actions are comparatively safer. Hello, do you all observe anything? The driver's statement ceased abruptly. A question followed the statement. Excuse me. Could you please clarify what you mean? The individual seated next to him inquired. The driver leaned forward and focused intently, scrutinizing the view through the glass. A sudden burst of light. In the atmosphere. I could have sworn I observed something. We understand. There is no necessity to attempt to intimidate us. Soldier A expressed amusement. Please hold for a moment. I believe I observe it as well. Above in the atmosphere. Those who were able to see extended their necks, and a vision captured their attention. In a moment of unexpected emergence, a flying jet materialized from an empty expanse. Is that an aircraft? What is that? Unlike any model I have encountered before. Small openings unexpectedly appeared on the sides of the aircraft in flight. Accompanied by 2 cannons aimed at the advancing convoy. The expressions of the audience shifted as they observed the cannons illuminate with a blue glow. Oh my goodness! This is an assault. Focus on your tasks. On board the aircraft. The sonic cannons have successfully acquired the target. The pilot stated in a neutral tone. A man dressed in a standard green suit stood behind him. The most distinctive characteristic is his head, which, in contrast to typical humans, reveals what lies beneath the skull. His intellect. Fire. He placed the order without any visible emotion. Explosion. 2 streams of sonic pulses surged toward the convoy accompanying the Secretary of the United States Department of Defense. Explosion. United States, the periphery of Gotham City, Not the axiom, the alternative. The periphery where Wayne Manor was situated. The grounds of Wayne Manor feature a perimeter gate, complemented by a prominent front gate at the main entrance. The location of the residence was quite advantageous. Located within a reasonable driving distance from Gotham City, allowing for visibility of the bat signal. Facilitating Bruce Wayne, or more accurately, Batman, to respond promptly should the situation demand it. On this somber night, the bat signal illuminated the skies of Gotham with clarity. Nevertheless, the renowned caped crusader of the city would be unable to address this situation. The scene commenced with a view of the building, featuring 11 opulent bedrooms and 7 elegantly designed bathrooms. In Bruce's master bedroom, the body of the Dark Knight rested on the opulent king-sized bed that he seldom utilized. He was not alone in the room, however. Adjacent to the bed was the green-skinned John Johns, his left hand resting on Bruce's forehead, eyes closed with a serious expression that conveyed deep concentration. Superman observed the entire situation from a distance, concern evident in his eyes and a deep frown marking his expression. Attired in his distinctive red and blue tights, the iconic S emblem signifies his alias and lineage as the last son of the House of L, complemented by a cape that nearly grazes the ground. Clark assessed Bruce, who was lying unconscious, using his X-ray vision once more, fully aware that it would yield no solutions. His gaze did not linger on the body. Among the members of the League that engaged Naruto, Batman sustained the least physical damage. In comparison to Hal, it can be argued that Bruce experienced a relatively favorable outcome. The punch delivered by the Deviant to the Green Lantern ensured that the latter has remained in the League's medbay until now. Batman, on the other hand, faced a significantly more intricate scenario. Clark conducted a thorough examination of Bruce's brain. After a brief moment, his vision normalized, leading him to frown even more deeply with a hint of disappointment. He observed Martian Manhunter, whose hands had regenerated over the past week, remaining silent. Subsequently, John has finally opened his eyes. The Green Martian removed his hand from Bruce's head and rose from the chair, his expression reflecting a hint of displeasure. Are there any updates? Clark inquired, yet observing his expression, he held minimal optimism. Affirmative. However, John's response took the Kryptonian by surprise. Indeed. Is he improving? Clark inquired with astonishment and pleasure. No. The Manhunter expressed disapproval with a shake of his head. When I referred to changes, I indicated that the situation is deteriorating. Clark's cheerful demeanor faltered before transforming into a scowl. His eyes nearly narrowed into slits as he focused intently on the Green Martian. What seems to be the issue with him? I cannot confirm at this time. The Manhunter shook his head in disapproval. The extent of the damage Bruce has sustained is unprecedented in my experience. Are you truly serious, John? I regret to inform you that I am. He responded with a serious demeanor. The technique Naruto utilized against Batman bears a notable resemblance to the psychic strategies employed by Martians and other telepaths in confrontations with adversaries. Bruce's coma stems from significant damage to his mindscape, causing his consciousness to retreat deep within his mind. Clark contemplated his words. It functions as a type of defense mechanism. Affirmative. John acknowledged with a nod. If that were the case, my skills would certainly suffice to manage it. Given sufficient time and appropriate therapeutic intervention, he would regain his mobility. His words came to a halt. Clark was not pleased with the direction this was taking. Nonetheless, Bruce's approach, although akin to that of a telepath, possesses a distinct quality that I have not encountered previously. The serious expression on his face clearly indicated that Martian Manhunter was not, under any circumstances, joking. The damage incurred remains ongoing. What is it? Clark inquired with disbelief. Batman's mind resembles a structure that has endured multiple explosions. With each passing second, the remnants of the damaged building are deteriorating gradually, and given sufficient time. He refrained from completing his statement, yet Superman provided the conclusion for him. The entire structure collapses. Affirmative. After a brief period of silence, Martian Manhunter spoke. At that point, Bruce's consciousness may remain confined within his mind indefinitely. He will remain in a coma until we can identify a solution to address his critical condition. If we are able to, that is. We will identify a solution. Clark stated while crossing his arms over his chest. His royal blue eyes glimmered with determination and resolve. John let out a silent sigh. This is quite challenging, Kal-El. We must make an effort. It is imperative that we ensure Bruce is addressed appropriately. Is there any action we can take? His words prompted the Martian to enter a state of contemplation. I will utilize my telepathic abilities to the best of my capacity to decelerate this process. However, to successfully awaken him, we will require additional support beyond just myself. Clark displayed a look of discontent. Are there additional telepaths? It is probable. He acknowledged with a nod. Bruce is unlikely to appreciate it. Clark declined with a shake of his head. The Justice League represented a coalition of some of the most formidable, highly skilled, and intellectually advanced individuals on planet Earth, and gradually extending their influence beyond. Each individual possessed unique traits and characteristics that distinguished them from others. Clark was well aware that Bruce despised mind intrusions even more than he did. In this scenario, it would be acceptable if it involved John, but including others would certainly not be well received by the Dark Knight upon awakening. The League had limited familiarity with telepaths from the outset. Disregard that. Aside from John, the League lacked any additional members possessing telepathic abilities. In addition to Martian Manhunter, the only individual present was his niece, Miss Martian. However, Clark had significant reservations about her ability to handle the task at hand. It is important to consider that she was still a child. Clark would prefer to seek an alternative rather than allow a child to navigate Bruce's mind fixing things. Why do so many skilled telepaths tend to be portrayed as villains? A thought briefly entered the mind of the Men of Steel, only to be dismissed almost immediately. Involving external parties would certainly result in the exposure of Batman's secret identity. It appears that Bruce lacks options in this situation. Furthermore, in regard to telepaths, our list of acquaintances is lacking. John delivered a subtle jest. Indeed, I am aware of that. Clark offered a faint smile. We can explore an alternative approach. Could you please clarify? Enchanting. Martian Manhunter proceeded toward the exit while articulating his thoughts. Upon observing this, Superman proceeded to follow. An individual possessing extraordinary abilities, proficient enough to enter Batman's subconscious, ought to be capable of fulfilling the role of an additional telepath. However, I would require him to collaborate with me closely over several days to increase the likelihood of success. It would be preferable to have multiple options available. John concluded as he pushed open the door. Very well, who do you have in? Clark ceased speaking. He turned his head abruptly to the side as distant sounds reached his ears. Is there an issue? John inquired with interest. This presents a challenge. Where is it? Upon hearing his question, Clark remained silent. His frown was becoming more and more noticeable. In all locations. The Manhunter elevated an eyebrow, yet beyond that, his facial expressions remained largely unchanged. Proceed, Clark. We can address this matter at a later time. I am aware. Clark provided a response. He directed his gaze towards the unconscious Batman. He nodded firmly and added, "Please ensure his well-being." Subsequently, his body exited the building at remarkable speed, leaving behind only a red and blue blur. Martian Manhunter focused on the room he had just exited. Beyond Bruce's bed, a human figure was observed breaking the sound barrier and vanishing into the clouds in an instant. The future presents significant concerns. John spoke quietly to himself. Since the incident over a week ago, a series of events has unfolded in a consistent manner, resembling a chain reaction. The undercurrents were intensifying, and adversaries were present. John redirected his gaze towards the hallway. Standing there was a butler that epitomized the quintessential British archetype, in a space that had been devoid of presence just moments before. He was balding, sported a thin mustache, and had a gaze that conveyed a sense of disapproval, reminiscent of a stern grandparent addressing a wayward grandchild. John found that expression somewhat unusual yet simultaneously reassuring. Given a man of this caliber prioritizing his health, it is understandable that Bruce has maintained his composure over the years. "Greetings once more, Mr. John." Alfred offered a warm greeting. "Greetings, Alfred." They had met when he arrived with Superman and Bruce earlier. He then redirected his attention to Bruce. "There are concerns regarding his condition." Alfred approached with a measured stride, embodying the sophistication and poise of an English gentleman. "I am committed to supporting Master Wayne in all his pursuits." He responded with composure. "I acknowledge that it is painful for me to observe him in this condition. He will be fine. The League will exert every effort possible. I can guarantee that." John observed with composure, noting the subtle trace of sorrow in the butler's expression. "Thank you." Alfred spoke in a gentle manner. "Is there anything you need?" "Thank you for your consideration, but I must decline. I may require some time for myself." "Excellent." Alfred acknowledged and proceeded on his path. As the old butler retreated, John let out a sigh. He redirected his attention from the vanishing figure to the view outside Bruce's window. The bat signal illuminating the skies was notably prominent. John contemplated for a moment before directing his gaze upward, toward a specific corner of the walls. His telepathy extended throughout the compound, penetrating deep underground. Below Wayne Manor, Batcave, a figure was positioned in front of the Batcomputer, observing the surveillance footage of the manor. "Good afternoon, Miss Gordon." Upon hearing the voice of Martian Manhunter in her mind, the figure experienced a brief moment of stiffness before regaining her composure. "Hello. Hello." She responded in the most authentic tone possible. "I apologize for the interruption. I assure you that I have not accessed your thoughts." "Oh. That is acceptable, please do not concern yourself with it. I value the statement." John recognized the apprehension in her voice and restrained himself from chuckling, finding her performance somewhat entertaining. "I have observed the signal. Is there a situation in Gotham?" "Affirmative." She responded after a brief pause. "Understood. May I offer my assistance to you?" "I can provide significant assistance." John inquired in a relaxed manner. "No. I appreciate the offer, but I must decline. It is a minor matter. I am capable of managing it." She responded. John remained largely silent. Gazed intently for several moments. "Should that be your desire?" He then proceeded to walk back into Bruce's bedroom. He entered, the door closing behind him. Observing the video of Martian Manhunter entering Bruce's room, she let out a subtle sigh. Clad in a black Kevlar suit that fit snugly and prominently displayed the Bat logo on her chest, Barbara Gordon deactivated the surveillance camera. She stood in front of the Batcomputer for a few seconds, her expression reflecting a hint of concern and apprehension. She proceeded to tap on the keyboard multiple times, resulting in a change on the screen. The image of the Bat signal illuminated above Gotham was displayed on the screen. Her hands skillfully navigated the keyboard as she accessed various security cameras. Shortly, the Batcomputer displayed the information she sought. The Joker character. The notorious criminal figure in Gotham City has successfully evaded capture from Arkham Asylum. Barbara paused for a moment before shutting down the computer. In the dimly lit workshop, she donned her cowl, concealing her features, and proceeded towards the mechanized area. The expression of concern on her face vanished as if it had never existed. Equipped with an array of weapons and gear, she approached the Ricochet. Gotham was a challenging environment characterized by high levels of crime. Even the most discerning Gothamite would not dispute that fact. The persistent crime in this city appeared unending, yet that would not alter the situation. As Batman was unable to respond to the watch light, she would assume his responsibilities until the caped Crusader regained consciousness. Barbara Joan Gordon would pursue the Joker and ensure he faces justice independently of Batman. What are the consequences of her actions? She will soon discover the outcome. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for watching this amazing video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.